So we have a test tomorrow over percents, and today in class we went over this test review. So I wanted to make a video so that you have all of the necessary information to make sure you're studying the correct material. You can get your review signed for 5 bonus points, provided you had it completed when you came to class today. So we've talked about a lot of different ways to find percents. This one says, what is the total price of a book that costs $21.50 plus 6% sales tax? So they want the cost after tax. Now, you can do a couple of things. You can make a proportion. One of the strategies we talked about was to make a box. So I'm just going to make a little box over here so that we can see this. And we talked about breaking it into threes. I hope there's enough space here. And we said we have tax, we have our subtotal, and we have our final total. And we said our subtotal is our 100%. So if sales tax is 6%, this book costs $21.50. That is our subtotal or our original. Now, we want to know this. So we can find the tax and then add it to $21.50. Or we can say 6 plus 100 is we are paying 106%. From this, we can see there is a proportion here. We can cross multiply divide if we would like. So we can say 21.50 is equal to 100 over 106. And we can cross multiply divide this. You can also find 5% and 1% and add those to get your 6%. Lots and lots of different ways to do this. So I'm going to erase this since I've written my proportion over there and show you my work. So I can say 21.50 times 106. So 6 times 0 is 0. 5 is 30. Carry the 3. 9 and 12. Don't forget your placeholder. Now, I have a 0 here. I can write a list of zeros, or I can just put 2 placeholders. 0, 5, 1, and 2. 0, 0, 9, 7, 2, 2. Don't forget about your decimals. And then we're going to divide this by 100. Now, we learned that when you divide by 100, we're essentially moving to more. So the cost is $22.79 after tax. So that means that your actual tax amount, if you did it with the 6%, your tax amount was $1.29. And you can add that. So if you did that where you found the tax and then you could add it to that, you can do that as well. Let's look here at number 2. Number 2 says, Marty bought a new CD player. She doesn't remember how much it cost, but she remembers 5% sales tax, and the tax was $4.50. So guys, it's saying 5%. We know percent goes over 100. It's saying that the tax versus the total, or the original price, the tax was $4.50. So the 5% and the $4.50 go together. So again, you can cross multiply divide. You can say 5 times 20 is 100, so 450 times 20. There's a lot of different ways to do this. Cross multiply divide will work 100% of the time. So times 100, we know that when we do times 100, we're just moving our decimal over twice, and then we need to divide that by 5. 5 does not go into 4, but 5 goes into 45 9 times. Don't forget to bring down your 0. So the cost of this was $90. That was before tax. Number 3 says, dinner at La Margarita was $42 for a family of 4. The father left a 20% tip. How much was the tip? So I'm asking, what is the 20% as money? Again, you can do your box, or you can say, I have tip versus my total. The tip was 20%. Sorry about that. So 20 goes over 100. And my total was 42. We can cross multiply, divide. 42 times 20. So here's my placeholder. Instead of all my zeros, you can do zeros if you like. 4 and 8. And we're going to divide that by 100, so we know that we can go 1, 2. So the tip was $8.40. Now, one of the tricks we talked about was percent trick. So if it was 42, and some of you have done this with your extra credit, right? 10% is 420, and you can say times 2 is 840, and that is fine too. As long as you're showing me your work on your test, we're good. Number 4 talks about a hamburger and a sundae at Chili's. Let me move this so we can see it a little bit better. Delicious quarter-pound hamburger was $4.95, and a chocolate sundae was $2.45. If you eat a burger and a sundae, what was your bill without tax or tip? So this is your subtotal before tax or tip. So we just need to add $4.95 plus $2.45, and our subtotal is $7.40. If we want to find an 8% sales tax, okay, so we can say 8 over 100 is equal to something over 740, because remember, we're going to label this tax and total. So I can say 8 times 740, sorry, that is a 0. 32, carry 3, 56, and 3 is 59. Don't forget your decimal. And then we're going to divide that by 100, so I'm going to go 1, 2. So my tax is 59 cents. Then it says, awesome service, we're going to leave a 15% tip. Calculate the tip on the bill. Oh, I did not finish letter B. The bill with tax, I apologize, 59 cents plus 740. Make sure we're reading carefully. Mrs. Ray did not read that all the way. So $7.99, this is my total with tax. I apologize. So when we get down to letter C with the tip, calculate the tip on the bill. We've talked about in class, sometimes people use the subtotal to find the tip, and some of them use the total after tax. I will show you both. I usually just use it after tax because that's the big number at the bottom of the bill. 15%, we could round that. We could say $8, right? So if I want to find, we can use our trick. 10% is going to be 80 cents. 5%, well, half of 80 is 40. So the tip is approximately $1.20. Now that's if you're using the $7.99. Okay, if you're going to use the $7.40, because let's be honest, $7.99, we can easily round that. $7.40, we can leave $7.40. 10% is 74 cents. 5%, well, we got to find half of 74. 3 is 6. 7 is 14. So 37 cents, and we can add that. We get 11, carry the 1. We get $1.11. So it just depends on which one you use, and on your test, I'll be able to see which value you were using. You could also, on this particular problem, you could make a percent proportion if you prefer, right? Calculate the tip so you could say the tip is 15 out of the total is 100. And then you could put your $8 here, you could put your $7.40, whichever you prefer, and cross multiply and divide like we've done on some of the other problems. All right. This next one says, and this next one is actually on the back of your paper. So let me go back and write tip on $7.40 is $1.11. Sporting goods, you can buy footballs for $8 each, soccer balls for $10. Tennis balls is a can for $2, and basketballs for $12. If we buy 2 or more balls, you get 20%. Now this is a discount, so that's a minus. What a deal. How much will you pay for 1 football, 2 cans of tennis balls, 2 soccer balls with a discount? So subtotal means we got to add them all up. So we have 1 football. Footballs are $8 each. Football. 2 cans of tennis balls. Well, a tennis ball can, 1 can is $2. So if we buy 2, that's $4. 2 soccer balls. Well, 1 soccer ball is 10, so 2 is 20. So you need to make sure you're using the correct amount. So we're not buying any basketballs. So we're going to find our subtotal. We're going to add these up. So 12 plus 20 is $32. Then we have a 20% discount. Well, we know 20%, we can find 10% is $3.20. Now you can also make a percent proportion. So if I double that, 20% is $6.40. So your final cost means, remember, discount subtract. So we're going to have to say $32 minus $6.40. We're going to borrow. This becomes 11 and a 2. 2560. So $25.60 for all of those balls. Now on the back, this is just using our book that we've talked about. And you can use your percent tricks here. 50% of 80, that's half. So it's going to be 40, right? We know 50% is half. 10%, move your decimal, is 7. 25% we know is 1/4. So you're dividing 100 by 4 is 25. 40% of 60. All right, well, 10% is 6, so we can do that times 4 to get 40 is 24. This one I would flip around. Remember we talked about we can say 70% of 18. So 10% is $1.80 times 7. 56, carry the 5, so 12.6. Now you can also make a percent proportion there. I would also flip this one. I would flip this one and say 50% of 36, because then you're just finding half of 36, which is 18. Percent to a fraction. Remember, percents mean out of 100, and make sure you simplify. Okay, so 28 out of 100 simplifies by 4, and we get 7/25. 66 2/3%. This was in our book. This was one we needed to memorize. The fraction is right there. 2/3. 90 out of 100 reduces by 10 to 9/10. And 60 out of 100 is just going to be, so 6/10, which is 3/5. Write the fraction as a percent. So 5 out of 20, if I want to get to 100, I'm going to say times 5. 5 times 5 is 25%. 16/50. So to get to 100 is times 2. So 32%. 1/8 is one you should have memorized. If you don't, you can make a percent proportion, cross multiply, and divide. 8 doesn't go into 1, 8 goes into 10 one time. 8 goes into 20 2 times. 16, that's a 4, bring down the 0. 12.5%. Don't forget your 0.5. And 3/10 we should know as 30%. And remember, we should have those halves, thirds, fourths, fifths, and tenths especially memorized. Percent as a decimal, decimal fraction percent. So if you want a percent to a decimal, we're going back to 1, 2. So I'm going to say 0, oh, undo, not sure what happened. Go. So 0.0725, 1, 2, 0.05. And then the decimal to a percent, again, decimal fraction percent, 1, 2. Now we're going to the right. 1, 2, 9. Don't forget your percent sign. 1, 2, 6.5%. 1, 2, 29%. 1, 2, 20%. The last one says, if 76% of the class said they would make an A this 9 weeks, there are 120 kids in 6th grade. Predict how many you think will earn an A. Okay, so this is still A and A. 76 out of 100 is equal to something over 120. You can cross multiply and divide. 120 times 76 is 9,120. And when we divide by 100, remember we can go 1, 2. So we can say about 91 people, right? We could say it's going to come out to 0.2, but we can't have 0.2 people. So we could say 91 kids about. Study hard. See you tomorrow.